How are you guys doing? Today is Tuesday, December 29th, 2020, out here in this quarantine. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to take you through the elite performances and matchups from yesterday, Monday, December 28th, 2020. Starting with the NFL, because there's a lot to get through. Looking through those games, there's only one game last night, and that was between the New England Patriots and their division rival, the Buffalo Bills. And in this game, the Buffalo Bills would sweep the New England Patriots for the first time. They're the first team to sweep New England Patriots for the first time this century, which is a pretty impressive feat to do. And with this win, they were able to, of course, secure the win in the AFC East, and they were able to pass up the Steelers for the second spot in the AFC. As they were able to beat the New England Patriots 38-9, dominating from the very beginning, and of course shutting out the New England Patriots for the entire second half for them to get a very big win in the season. For the New England Patriots, their elite starting quarterback Cam Newton would complete 5 of his 10 passes, throwing for 34 yards. He also ran for 24 yards on 4 carries and a touchdown to give him a total of 58 yards of offense to go with his 1 touchdown. Jarrett Stidham came in and completed 4 of his 11 passes, throwing for 44 yards. The leading rusher for the day was Sony Michel, who had 69 yards on 10 carries. Their leading receiver was Jacoby Myers, who had 45 yards on 4 receptions. On the defensive side of the ball, Jonathan Jones was the leading tackler, as he had 8 tackles for the day. No one on the team was able to log a sack or an interception. But for the Buffalo Bills, their starting quarterback Josh Allen would complete 27 of his 36 passes, throwing for 320 yards and 4 touchdowns. He also ran for 35 yards to give him a total of 355 yards of offense to go with his 4 touchdowns through the air. Big game from him. On the ground, their leading rusher was Zach Moss, who had 57 yards on 12 carries and a touchdown. Their leading receiver was Stephon Diggs, who had 145 yards on 9 receptions and 3 touchdowns. And also Lee Smith had 31 yards on 2 receptions and a touchdown. Also, Dawson Knox had 51 yards on 3 receptions. On the defensive side of the ball, Matt Milano would lead the team in tackles. He had 8 of them on the day. He also had a sack. In addition to him, Quentin Jefferson and Dean Marlowe would log the other 2 sacks of the day for the Buffalo Bills. And with this win, the Buffalo Bills would finish, as of right now, they're sitting with the best record in the AFC. And with this win, they have officially clinched the best record, as they are 2 games ahead of Miami with 1 game left to play. And that's currently where the Buffalo Bills are sitting. With this win, they overtake the Steelers for the second spot. And looking at to how this season can finish off for them, they can't finish at the number 1 spot because that spot is already set, but they could see themselves falling to 3rd place at the very worst with their last game coming up. With this loss, the Patriots are now 6-9. They've been eliminated from the playoffs, and as of right now, as it stands, the New England Patriots are sitting with the 11th possible pick in the NFL draft. But that's what the NFL is currently looking like. The next games for Week 17, all the Week 17 games are going to happen on Sunday, so that's going to be very big, and I'll call those games as it comes through that. And, of course, my next episode will be the playoff picture going into Week 7. But that's what the NFL is currently looking like. Jumping out to the NBA to show you what the NBA is currently looking like following the games that just happened today. Starting in Brooklyn, the Brooklyn Nets hosted the Memphis Grizzlies, and in this game, the Memphis Grizzlies were able to beat the Brooklyn Nets in overtime without Kyrie or KD playing for them. The big win for the Memphis Grizzlies. For the Brooklyn Nets, out of their starters, Timothy Luwawu Cabarrot would finish with 21 points, 6 rebounds, shooting 7 for 17 from the field in 40 minutes. And their leading scorer was Karis LeVert out of Michigan, who finished with 28 points, 4 rebounds, 11 assists, and 5 steals, shooting 12 for 29 from the field in 38 minutes. For the Memphis Grizzlies, off the bench, their power forward, Brandon Clark, would finish with 16 points and 7 rebounds, shooting 6 for 11 from the field in 29 minutes. Also, their shooting guard, Dylan Brooks, would finish with 24 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 steals in 35 minutes. Their elite point guard, John Moran, would only play 13 minutes, finish with 7 points and 3 assists as he went down with a leg injury that we'll eventually find out what happened. And their leading scorer was their forward, Kyle Anderson, who finished with 28 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists, shooting 9 for 17 from the field in 37 minutes. With this win, the Memphis Grizzlies are currently sitting in the middle of the West right now with a 1-2 record, as they have the second worst record in the West, as The only team with the worst record than them are the 0-2 Houston Rockets so far. And with this win, the Brooklyn Nets are still sitting pretty high up in the East. They are the only team in the East with a 2-2 record, as they are 1.5 games out from the lead as it currently sits. Jumping out to yet another game, going to Atlanta. The Atlanta Hawks hosted the Detroit Pistons and were able to beat them 128-120 after outscoring them in the first and third quarter. This was a back and forth game, but the Hawks were able to secure this one away to get their third win of the season. For the Detroit Pistons, off the bench, their point guard DeLon Wright would finish with 18 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists in 22 minutes. And out of their starters, their small forward Josh Jackson, and of course their power forward Jeremy Grant would finish with 27 points each to help the Detroit Pistons get really, really close. But of course, at the end, it wouldn't matter. Josh Jackson, in addition to his 27 points, he would shoot 11 for 19 from the field in 28 minutes with 4 rebounds, and Jeremy Grant would finish with 6 rebounds to go along with his 27 points. For the Atlanta Hawks, off the bench, their shooting guard Bogdan Bogdanovic would finish with 17 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists in 30 minutes, shooting 6 for 10 from the field, 5 for 7 from 3. Their power forward, John Collins, would finish with 15 points and 5 rebounds, shooting 4 for 7 from the field in 26 minutes. And the Atlanta Hawks' leading scorer was their elite point guard, Trae Young, who would finish the game with 29 points, 3 rebounds, and 6 assists in 33 minutes, shooting 6 for 13 from the field, and he made all 15 of his free throws. With this win, the Atlanta Hawks are now 3-0 and sitting at the very top of the East, along with the Pacers, the Magic, and the Cavaliers as the only other 3-0 teams. And with this loss, the Detroit Pistons now drop to 0-3 as they are tied with the Washington Wizards and the Chicago Bulls for the worst record in the East, 3 games behind the Hawks, Cavaliers, Magic, and Pacers at the very top of that conference. Jumping out to OKC, the Thunder hosted the Utah Jazz, and thanks to a final shot by Donovan Mitchell, the Utah Jazz were able to pull away with their second win of the season, beating them 110-109 at the very end of the game. For the Oklahoma City Thunder, their shooting guard Shai Gilgeous-Alexander would finish with 23 points and 7 rebounds, shooting 9 for 21 from the field in 36 minutes. And their leading scorer was their shooting guard Luguentz Dort, who'd finish with 26 points, 2 rebounds, and 2 steals on the day, shooting 9 for 11 from the field, 5 for 7 from 3. For the Utah Jazz, off the bench, their point guard Jordan Clarkson would finish with 16 points and 4 rebounds, shooting 5 for 10 from the field in 26 minutes. And then out of their starters, their starting point guard, Mike Conley, would finish with 20 points, 10 rebounds, and 9 assists, shooting 8 for 15 from the field. Their elite shooting guard, Donovan Mitchell, would finish with 20 points and 5 assists, shooting 8 for 23 from the field and 2 for 10 from 3. And their leading scorer was Bojan Bogdanovic, who finished with 23 points and 3 rebounds, shooting 8 for 17 from the field and 5 for 9 from 3. With this win, the Utah Jazz are currently tied amongst a bunch of other teams for the top of the West with a 2-1 record. And with this loss, the Oklahoma City Thunder are now 1-1 as they're half a game removed from the very top. That is being shared with the best 4 teams in the West. Jumping out to Denver, the Denver Nuggets hosted the Houston Rockets and were able to beat the Rockets 124-111 to get their first win of the season. For the Houston Rockets, their power forward, Christian Wood, would finish with 23 points and 3 rebounds in 37 minutes. And their leading scorer was their elite shooting guard, James Harden, who would finish the game with 34 points, 6 rebounds, and 8 assists, shooting 10 for 16 from the field in 31 minutes. He shot 5 for 9 from 3, and he made all 9 of his free throw attempts. For the Denver Nuggets, their power forward, Paul Millsap, would finish with 19 points and 3 rebounds, shooting 7 for 8 in 25 minutes. Their elite center, Nikola Jokic, would finish with 19 points, 12 rebounds, and 8 assists, shooting 8 for 11 from the field in 34 minutes, 1 for 1 from 3, 2 for 3 from the free throw line. And their leading scorer was Jamal Murray, their point guard, who finished with 21 points and 5 rebounds, shooting 7 for 14 from the field and 4 for 6 from 3. With this win, the Denver Nuggets are now 1-2. They are currently sitting 1 full game behind the teams that are leading the West, as they are only half a game ahead of the last place Rockets. And with this loss, like I just said, the Rockets are the only team in the West who still have yet to win a game. And because of this, they're sitting with the worst record in the West all by themselves. Last but not least, the Los Angeles Lakers hosted the Portland Trailblazers in a rematch of the first round of the Western Conference playoffs from earlier this year in 2020. And in this game, the Portland Trailblazers were able to get the 115-107 win against the Los Angeles Lakers to get their second win of the season. For the Los Angeles Lakers, their starting point guard, Dennis Schroeder, would finish with 24 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists, shooting 8 for 16 from the field, 7 for 7 from the free throw line. Their elite power forward, Anthony Davis, would finish with 13 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists, shooting 6 for 14 from the field and 1 for 2 from the free throw line in 38 minutes. And their goated small forward, LeBron James, would finish with 29 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, and 2 steals, shooting 11 for 20 from the field in 36 minutes. He shot 3 for 7 from 3, and the Indy shot 4 for 5 from the free throw line. And for the Portland Trailblazers, off the bench, their shooting guard, Gary Trent Jr., would finish with 28 points and 3 rebounds, shooting 10 for 14 in 24 minutes, 7 for 11 from the three-point line. Of course, he went to school with me. Go Gary Trent. All props to him. Their starting shooting guard, CJ McCollum, would finish with 20 points and 11 assists, shooting 7 for 22 from the field in 37 minutes. And their leading scorer was Damian Lillard, their elite point guard, who finished with 31 points, 4 rebounds, and 5 assists, shooting 10 for 16 from the field, 5 for 10 from 3, and he made all 6 of his free throw attempts. With this win, the Portland Trailblazers became the first team since the 2018-19 season to beat the Los Angeles Lakers after trailing in the third quarter. The Lakers they'd won all of their games after leading in the third quarter all last season, and of course that streak would come to an end. But with this win, the Portland Trailblazers are currently sitting at 2-1, which is tied for the best record in the West. And with this loss, the Los Angeles Lakers are now officially 2-2 on the season. As right now they're the only team that currently has that record in the West. But of course, they're now half a game behind the teams with the best record in the West, which comprises of about 8 teams. That's what happened in the NBA yesterday. Looking forward to today's matchup starting at 7:00. The 3-0 Cleveland Cavaliers will host the 1-2 New York Knicks. The 0-3 Detroit Pistons will host the 1-2 Golden State Warriors. The 3-0 Pacers will host the 1-2 Boston Celtics. The 2-1 76ers are going to host the 0-2 Raptors. And the 0-3 Wizards are going to host the 0-3 Chicago Bulls. At 7:30, the 1-1 Miami Heat are going to host the 1-2 Milwaukee Bucks on TNT, as that's going to be a rematch of the second round matchup between the Bucks and the Heat. The series in which Giannis Antetokounmpo would end up being hurt and wouldn't come back from, where the Bucks would only get 1 win out of that series. At 8:00, the 1-1 Oklahoma City Thunder are going to host the 3-0 Orlando Magic. At 10:00 on TNT, the 2-1 Phoenix Suns are going to host the 2-1 New Orleans Pelicans. Also at 10:00, the 2-1 Los Angeles Clippers are going to host the 2-1 Minnesota Timberwolves. And last but not least, the 2-1 Sacramento Kings are going to host the 1-2 Denver Nuggets. So we're going to see how a lot of these NBA games will fare following these matchups. Jumping to college basketball to show you what's going on out there. Following yesterday's performances, first-ranked Gonzaga was able to beat unranked Northern Arizona 88-58, as Joel Ajayi would finish with 17 points and 10 rebounds. With this win, Gonzaga is 8-0 on the season, as Northern Arizona drops to 1-6. Sixth-ranked Wisconsin hosted unranked Maryland, and Maryland was able to get a big win, winning 70-64 after outscoring Wisconsin by 10 in the second half. Aaron Wiggins would lead the way for Maryland as he finished with 15 points and 9 rebounds. With this loss, Wisconsin is now 8-2. They are now 2-1 in the Big Ten. And with this win, Maryland is now 6-3 on the season. They are 1-2 in the Big Ten. And the last game, the 21st ranked Minnesota Gophers hosted the 17th ranked Michigan State Spartans. And in this game, the Minnesota Gophers were able to beat the Michigan State Spartans by 25, beating them 81-56. Liam Robbins would lead the way for Minnesota, finishing with 18 points and 9 rebounds. Aaron Henry would lead the way for Michigan State as he had 11 points. With this win, Minnesota is now 9-1, and they are 2-1 in the Big Ten. And with this loss, Michigan State is 6-3. All 3 of their losses coming in the Big Ten. They are 0-3 on that, when it comes to that. But that's what was going on with college basketball. Especially that was everything that was going on yesterday. Looking forward to today's matchups, especially among ranked opponents. Starting because there are a couple games that have been postponed, but out of the games that are playing, At 2 o'clock, ninth-ranked West Virginia is going to host 1-4 Northeastern. At 4 o'clock, second-ranked 6-0 Baylor is going to host 1-6 Central Arkansas. At 6 o'clock, 24th-ranked 7-1 Virginia Tech is going to host 4-2 Miami. Also at 7 o'clock, 13th-ranked 7-2 Texas Tech is going to host 1-3 Incarnate Word. Also at 7, 14th-ranked Rutgers at 6-1 are going to host the 7-3 Purdue Boilermakers. Also at 7, the 6-1 Clemson Tigers are going to host the 5-1 Florida State Seminoles. Florida State is ranked 18th on the season. At 9 o'clock, first-ranked Gonzaga is going to host Dixie State. Gonzaga is 8-0. Dixie State is 4-1. Also at 9 o'clock, unranked Tulsa is going to host 5th-ranked Houston on ESPN2. Houston is 7-0 as Tulsa is 4-3. Also at 9, 10th-ranked Iowa is going to host 19th-ranked Northwestern on FS1. Iowa is 7-2 as Northwestern is 6-1. And those are the big college basketball games to look forward to today. In terms of the college football bowl schedule, looking forward to today. 18th ranked Miami is going to host 21st ranked Oklahoma State on ESPN at 5:30 in the Cheez-It Bowl, and at 9 o'clock it'll be the Valero Alamo Bowl as the 4-1 Colorado Buffaloes are going to play against the 20th ranked Texas Longhorns. Texas is 6-3 and Colorado is 4-1 on the season, so it's going to be those two games mainly for tomorrow. And last but not least, jumping to the Premier League in London, just to show you how those soccer games are going on and how they're taking shape with the games that they're playing. And in these games, first, Leicester City tied with Crystal Palace 1-1. Leicester City tied it up in the 83rd minute, and they were able to get 1 point on the table. With this draw, they are sitting second in the Premier League as they are 3 points behind Liverpool in first place. And then, of course, with this draw, Crystal Palace is currently sitting 13th in the table. That just like I thought. And Chelsea was able to draw with Aston Villa after Ghazi's goal from Aston Villa was tied up in the second half. With 1 point in the table, Chelsea is currently sitting 6th in the table. They are 6 points behind first place Liverpool with one less game to be played. So they need to get a lot turned around here. But of course, a draw is better than a loss. And then Everton and Man City was postponed. Looking forward to today's matchups. The only big matchup that I see is Manchester United hosting Wolverhampton at 3 o'clock. That's going to be the last Premier League game as we look at Man U. Man U is currently trailing Liverpool by 5 points in the table with one less match to be played. So a win here could be very big, and Manchester United possibly, a win here could see Man U jump to second place in the table. And then also there's going to be games in La Liga today as well, as at 1:15. Barcelona is going to host Eibar at 1:15. And currently looking at how La Liga is shaping up. Barcelona is sitting 5th in the table as they are currently 8 points behind Atletico Madrid with one match played. But a win here could possibly see them jump to 3rd in La Liga. So it could be very big for them. And those are the only big matchups that I have for today. And with that said, today is Tuesday, December 29th, 2020 out here in this quarantine. I'm James Sims. I want to thank you once again for listening to all 18 minutes of this piece. And I'll get back to everyone tomorrow following tonight's NBA matchups. And for the rest of today, I'm going to include a playoff picture for Week 17 of the NFL and the players that I think make up the elite basketball players of the world. With that said, I want to thank you once again for listening to my piece. I hope all is well in this quarantine, and peace out.